Now, here are your hosts, Dominic Tavella and Michael Hartzman.
All right, I'm Michael Hartzman. Today is Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. Tonight, Dominic is still away in Italy, and my son, Scott Hartzman, will be co-hosting with me, along with our guest, James Lattanzi, also in Italy, but he was able to stay up late this evening. How are you, Scott? How are you, James?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for coming on. So look, tonight's show was inspired by Scott. He wanted to bring on a young entrepreneur, and we had another guest a few weeks ago, Jordan LeWinter, talking about how he built his career, through law school and through his practice, and what's it like trying to survive on Long Island. James is going to come to us from a different perspective. He's an entrepreneur, turned a hobby into a great business. So we want to figure out how he did that, maybe provide some insight to some of our younger clients. But before I do that, I just want to give a quick update on the market. The market was up today, a couple hundred points. Tonight after the close, we had some good earnings from Microsoft. Let's see if there's any follow through on that. The market still remains nervous about interest rates. The market still remains nervous about 10-year treasuries paying over 5%. They've come down a little bit. So far this quarter, which is basically the month of October, the S&P is down about 1.5. The NASDAQ is down about 1.75, and the Dow Jones is down about 1%. So basically, the market goes everywhere and goes nowhere at the same time, it feels like. It continues to be sloppy. Next week, Dominic and I are both going to be off, and when we come back in early November, hopefully have a little bit more direction on the market and what the Federal Reserve might do next. But moving on to our guest, James, if I remember correctly, you are the founder of a company called Bullseye Sneaker Boutique, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So basically, when I first met you a couple of years ago, you explained to me how you basically took a hobby and a passion and turned it into a real business. So, I called you a sneakerhead before the show started, but really this is what it really boils down to, right? Your love of sneakers and footwear, and I guess fashion in general. So you turned that interest into an entire boutique and internet website.
Yes. So it all started from me wanting to buy some sneakers when I was about maybe 11 or 12 years old. And these sneakers that I wanted were a little bit more expensive than what I was, normally wearing. And I had seen some kids at school wearing different kinds of sneakers. I started to have an eye for it, and start to decide what I liked and what I wanted. With that, I learned that a lot of these sneakers are very expensive, and I had to figure out a way that I'd be able to get them. And so that's kind of really what it all started from, is just a love for sneakers and wanting sneakers for myself, trading up to have sneakers that I was looking for, that I wanted to add to my personal collection. And over time, it turned into a business.
So that would have been the early to mid 2000s, correct?
Yes.
So Michael Jordan is at the end of his career, or maybe even retired. So if I remember correctly, and although I'm not a sneakerhead, never was, although if I still had my old pair of Chuck Taylors, they'd probably be worth a lot of money right now. But were you buying Air Jordans? What were you buying?
Yes. So mostly Air Jordans. Air Jordan, the entire Nike branch of Air Jordan is an integral piece of Nike that spawned from 1985 Air Jordan 1, first Air Jordan that Michael Jordan wore, that the NBA said, no, you can't wear this. And he accepted the fine. I'm sure Nike paid the fine that he accepted, but that shoe continued to be re-released within different colorways throughout the years, and is still one of the most popular silhouettes. And so, Jordan's made over 30 different sneakers in line with that Jordan 1 that followed. The Jordan 1 in 1985 I think the Jordan 3 in 1989, and so on and so forth. And, these styles are timeless that people still continue to wear, still some of the most popular sneakers. Even this year, we see the Jordan 4 being one of the most popular sneakers, worldwide that people are purchasing. So, definitely a lot of Air Jordans that started my love for sneakers, as well as continues into the current love of sneakers for sneakerheads.
So, James, what do you feel when you started the business were some of the challenges you had faced? I mean, you had never done this before. Did you have any experience, or did you completely go on blindly, and how did you overcome them?
So my experience that began my career with sneakers, rather than the switch from the hobby to the business, was when I was about 16 years old. So when I was 16, I was in a car accident. I was hit by a car, and I was in the hospital for about a month. I had 12 skull fractures. I was laid up for a long time. And in that time, I was in the hospital. I couldn't do anything. I really couldn't do much at all. I couldn't get up and walk around, or, hang out with my friends, or anything a 16-year-old would want to really do, other than be on my phone and look to buy sneakers. And so in that time, I started buying a lot more sneakers, even more than just one. If I wanted one for myself, that's what I was focused on before. I never thought to buy multiple of the same shoe, thinking it might appreciate in value. But at that time, I understood that there were sneakers that would appreciate over time, and I was starting to see the trends of how these sneakers were appreciating. So in the hospital, I actually bought, this was not Air Jordan. This was a Nike or a Adidas Yeezy. When Kanye West was with Adidas, there was a sneaker that released. It was a red stripe Yeezy 350, and I bought a whole bunch of them. I was in a bunch of Facebook marketplace groups in Europe and the UK, and I was buying a lot of them over there. They released a lot more in Europe and the UK, and I was familiar with buying things from there and dealing with people of different ethnicities and language barriers, and how to get around those, and how to still make a deal. Just because I had some experience with that from purchasing sneakers for myself. And so I started to buy a lot of those while I was in the hospital. They appreciated in price and in value. And I saw that I could turn a profit. From there, it really turned from a hobby to a business.
And at what point did you say, I'm going to move into a mall, I'm going to sign this enormous lease, and, I'm just going to go places in my wildest dreams. I'm just going to give this a shot.
So the time frame before, from the car accident, when I started buying sneakers to turn a profit, to when I opened my first location in 2020, was online sales. I went to a lot of sneaker events as well, and did a lot of, there's Sneaker Con, there's Got Sold, there's a million different events that are held all over the world. And so, I built my connections mostly on Facebook groups that I'd been in since I was 12 years old. Some would phase out, some would start new, with different opportunities, with different people in different parts of the world. And so, I built my network through Facebook and through these in-person interactions at these sneaker events, and was just solely selling things online on other people's platforms, as well as at the beginning of COVID, I started selling sneakers at other stores, or maybe a little bit earlier on, but during COVID is when people were given stimulus checks, and people were able to now go back outside again and start shopping. Malls saw a huge influx in customers and in mall goers and shoppers and revenues. And so, during that time, I was selling sneakers at other people's stores through consignment. Some would have a 15% consignment rate, some would have 20%, some greater, some as low as 10%. I believe that's the lowest consignment rate that's accepted. So I was selling sneakers at other locations, other stores, and seeing what my sales were during those times, and talking with these store owners, building a relationship with them, finding out, hey, I don't like the way this person does this. I don't like the way this person pays their consigners or doesn't pay their consigners. I don't like the way that this person handles their inventory or manages their employees. So I learned a lot from these other store owners, things I did like as well. And decided, hey, it really even wasn't my decision, but I did. I have a business partner that really wanted to open a store. He didn't want to go to college. I studied at Florida State my first year in college. I lived in Florence, Italy. It's actually funny. It's where I'm at currently. But I studied here in Florence for a year. I got sent home halfway through during COVID. There was an outbreak. It began in a lot of places in Italy. I was in Venice for Carnival when it started to hit Venice, and we got sent home, and I finished the rest of my year online. And after that, I was back home, back in Philadelphia. Was going to start school in Tallahassee. Went back to Tallahassee, Florida. Started Florida State University, and when I went, my classes were online again. We thought they were going to be in person. They were online again. My friends and I decided to say, hey, we're going to do our classes online. We're going to take a road trip. Take a road trip up the East Coast. When I'm back in Pennsylvania, my friend who was running my business for me, sending out all my sneakers when I was living in Italy, but the business had to continue while I was still there. He's sending out all my sneakers. He says, hey, I'm not going to go to college. I don't want to sit in the warehouse all day. I'd rather sit in a store. What do you think? I was scared. It wasn't really something I wanted to do. It wasn't a risk I wanted to take. I was comfortable. I was happy where I was at, selling things online. I had a good thing going, selling things at other stores. It was manageable. I didn't want to take the leap particularly. He kind of pushed me a little bit. He said, hey, I want to do this. I can handle this. And, you can go back to school. So I finished, I started another semester at Tallahassee, finished that semester at Tallahassee, opened my first location in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, right outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, capital of Pennsylvania. And that was on November 6th, 2020. Finished my semester of school. And expecting to go back and leave the business to him for the in-store responsibilities. Leave that to my business partner so I could go back to school. I ended up getting highly involved in the in-store activity. I fell in love with it. I really enjoyed it, and started to look for another location. I did not go back to school at that point. I continued to grow my business and expand my network. So that's kind of the in between of when it started to become a business and when the first location was opened.
So how difficult was it for two guys in their early 20s to convince the managing agent of a mall that you guys are worth the risk? Did they make your parents co-sign? Did you have a bank behind you? Because I could just imagine this middle-aged person, who's responsible for getting these stores leased. And he's got these two guys in their early 20s want to sell sneakers and compete with, the big box stores at the same time.
For sure. So during COVID, it was uncertain as to what direction malls were really going to go in. And leasing agents, I think, were a bit panicked about filling spaces to some extent, and I'd spoken to other store owners about how they negotiated their leases and tried to, get as much information as I could to be able to make, educated responses to these leasing agents who, this is my first time dealing with something like this.
Yeah.
It was all new to me. Breakpoint was something I never understood. I didn't understand previously. Okay, you sell over this amount on a monthly or yearly basis, depending on how you negotiate it. You're going to pay a percentage of your sales. That's something the mall does. They want you to sell more products. They want you to grow, but they also want to take their piece of it as well. So there was a lot of hurdles and things I had to understand. To make that happen. The actual leasing agents, luckily we had a good connection. When we met this woman, Christina, she was I think she looked at us and was excited for us. I was 20, my business partner was 19. Wow. I think she was excited for us. We had a lot of sales online. We had sales to back it. It wasn't, hey, we just have an idea, we want to open a sneaker store. We had sales to back it. No cosigns, no banks backing us, no loans. We opened up this sneaker store and built it out. it was previously it was a Sprint store, a Sprint phone store previously. And so, we had to renovate this space. Luckily, my business partner's father, is a contractor, and he helped us do a lot of the work. And luckily, the mall also allowed us to do a lot of the work. Whereas at our second location, we had to have union labor. There's a lot more with different leasing companies and different real estate, companies. They have different requirements for how the work can be completed. So luckily, we were able to do a lot of it ourselves. And I had some help from some of my friends as well. My roommate in Florida and Tallahassee came up and lived with me for a month to help me build the store out. So we made it work, and we learned a lot about what to do, what not to do, and we made mistakes and we learned from them. For the second location to come out better than the first.
James, so I know you mentioned Adidas before with the Yeezys. How do you adapt to those changes? And I know I'm sure those were super popular to sell to begin with. Did you think I have to change my marketing strategy now, or you just decided to pivot to a different sneaker that you can now market?
For sure. So currently, Yeezys were such a large part of the sneaker resale industry for such a long time. But things die out over time when it comes to trends. Things can only last for so long when it comes to the same style, and they're just reproducing different colorways. People want something new. So the way that I follow these trends are seeing a lot of what the direction that fashion is going, and definitely adapting to those trends and buying sneakers that are more on the cusp of mainstream rather than what's mainstream at the time. We obviously need to stock what people are coming in to buy consistently, but we also need to be on the edge of what's next and understanding what's to come. And so I follow those trends, on a daily basis. And a lot of that is social media. A lot of that is celebrity influence. A lot of it is fashion influence and watching, some of the way that these designers are starting to trend towards a more what some would call a dad shoe, a bulkier platform sneaker. So it's a lot of data analytics, but it's not as I guess normal of a market analysis as, say, the stock market might be.
Do you find fast fashion affecting your market as much? I know fast fashion is big now with stores like H&M or Forever 21, where they're just turning through products so quickly. People get tired of the products and then they want something new. Do you find that with the sneaker market at all, or people stick with?
That's a really good question. I would say that fast fashion definitely has an effect when people start to realize that their quality is being compromised and their price has not changed, which is a lot of what happened with Air Jordan more recently. And I think now we'll see in the next year or so, they're going to produce less quantity. Hopefully the quality will improve slightly, but when they're mass producing something because they know they have demand and they know they can sell out or come close to sell out, quality is compromised. So I would say that that's kind of where fast fashion fits that criteria. And I think that that's changing slowly. We see a lot of sneakers that are made from recycled materials. We see a lot of sneakers that have foundations behind them that say, hey, every purchase is going towards this charity. It's a lot more than just sneakers now, and people have come up with a lot of different creative ways to either to kind of counteract that fast fashion which a lot of these brands do not want to be known for, mass producing low quality goods when, their prices are, you're selling sneakers for $200, $250.
Right.
James, I don't even know the answer to this question. So does Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies have a shoe?
He does. He has a couple.
So does the average demographic who buys, his sneaker or any other athlete's sneaker, do they care? Do you care when that athlete's reputation takes a hit and he's, hanging out at nightclubs waving a pistol? Do you wake up the next morning like, oh crap, I'm sitting with, 200 of this guy's shoes? Or does your demographic not really care?
That is a great question.
Thank you.
And this is where I think some of the viewers might be shocked to hear the answer.
Mhm.
So a lot of sneakers that have controversy are worth money. If there's a controversy surrounding a sneaker, there was when the Colin Kaepernick situation occurred, there was a sneaker with a flag, that was attached to his name, and that sneaker ended up being, a lot of the platforms that sell sneakers said, "Hey, we're not selling this sneaker. We refuse to sell it." There's been sneakers that have to do with, all kinds of different views, right? And so they'll have a certain attachment. These platforms will decide and say, "Hey, we're not willing to sell this." And I've made that decision as well. Sometimes I say, "Hey, I'm not okay with selling this product," and it comes down to morals at a certain point. In another light, sneakers that have controversy have value. When you tell a market of investors, because that's really what a lot of these people that are buying sneakers are. They're investors. They're buying 100, 200 pairs of a sneaker because they think it's going to increase in price. When you tell investors, "Hey, there's only this many pairs, and now there's this controversy around it. This is all that's left. The value's increasing." They're going to buy it rather than sell it. So it's a different mindset. Whereas if a CEO of a company is found to be doing something terrible, maybe that stock will plummet. Whereas if a celebrity or an influencer is attached to a sneaker and there's controversy surrounding, depending on what that controversy might be, a lot of times those sneakers are, oh, well, now there's going to be even less brand new pairs. All these people are going to buy them and hold them. And so it's an act. It's a rush to buy them in a lot of cases, and you'll see value increase.
Where bad news is good news to the value of a sneaker.
For sure.
James, so there's a lot of talk now with AI and how AI is changing many industries. Do you find that AI is something that could help your industry, or something that you wish you had the capability to do before that now maybe AI could handle for you? Or have you found, or just general technology that's affecting your business?
So currently we use AI to write product descriptions. We've used it to create customer service responses. We have Zendesk integrated on our website, which has AI functions. When people ask a question with certain keywords, they're getting a certain response. Although it's not perfect, we can filter through serious responses, serious inquiries versus, marketing ploys. So I would say that that's definitely a way that we utilize AI. Although I think there's many more things to come that will affect the sneaker market as far as AI goes. I don't think we've seen enough of it yet.
It's interesting that you said that it writes a lot of your product descriptions, because I'll go on your website and I'll see it's like, you have new products every day. And I was like, the fact that you guys, I assumed writing these product descriptions for each and every product. Now that I know that you're saving a ton of time just having AI write it is amazing.
Definitely. hundreds of hours worth of time if we were to write individual product descriptions. And our SEO might not even, even if we wrote it completely ourselves, our SEO might still not see as much of a positive effect as it will from AI. You can tell AI, hey, write this description so that it complies with SEO guidelines, so that it's within this certain character limit, so that you touch on these sales points. So there's a lot of beautiful things that AI can help us with and continues to help us with. But I'm excited to see what the future really holds when it comes to actual sneaker releases and the way that other companies that sell sneakers and clothing continue to use AI.
James, we're going to take a quick break, but you use some jargon there. What is SEO?
Search engine optimization. So search engine optimization to bring your page or your product listing to be seen by more people on a certain search engine.
Okay. Let's take a quick break, guys. And I want to talk to you when we come back after the break about how the economy affects your business. Again, I know you have a unique demographic, but people still need money. People still need jobs, and people still worry about recessions of all ages. So let's talk about that a little bit when we come back. So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back with James Lattanzi. All right, I'm Michael Hartzman, back with my son, Scott Hartzman, sitting in for Dominic Tavella, and our special guest this evening, our friend James Lattanzi, the owner and founder of Bullseye Sneaker Boutique. So, James, a lot of people feel that their businesses are recession-proof. And I would argue no business is 100% recession-proof. So I'm hoping in your brief college career, you took 1 or 2 economics classes. And we hear about a recession and rising interest rates. And, thank God for everyone, the employment rate has been very, very low. How much attention do you and your partner pay to what the economy is doing and whether your best intentions, your customers want to buy new shoes, but they just can't afford them? How much of that is a worry?
It's definitely a concern. It's a concern that's met with a few different tactics. I would say the first thing that we look at is our average order value. I would say our average order value has definitely decreased, but not to say that our revenues have decreased. And I think that's because we continue to focus on items that were trending and also affordable. So where, previously someone might be okay with buying $750 shoes without blinking an eye, maybe now they're down in the $300 to $350 range. There's less disposable income, or they feel like they might have less disposable income, or they have other responsibilities, whatever it might be. The thing when it comes to sneakers is they have those $750 sneakers on their feet still. So what's next? After they wear their pair out, well, this is what I had before. A lot of people, their mindset is they don't want to take a step down from where they were before. People want to move forward, even if it's not within their means. So a lot of times people will still continue to buy items that maybe are not the most financially sound decisions. And at the same time, people will also move down into a bracket that's a little bit cheaper and, still within so many different trends. And a lot of times the trends are moving in the way of a certain average order that is smaller than it was before. A lot of these items, are become cheaper over time because there's less people buying them as well. So they become more affordable, and we focus on carrying a lot of those items as well, while still keeping enough inventory for the people that still want to buy, some of the more expensive sneakers.
I was in James' store over the spring, and I was amazed to see the volume of traffic in your store and how much people are just dropping without blinking an eye on, spending $600 plus on sneakers. Was remarkable.
James, I know your partner didn't want to sit in a warehouse, wanted to sit in a store. I totally get that. but where do you derive your greatest value, right? A lot of people think malls are dying or, they're dead and they don't know it yet. So are you still getting more sales, if I could ask, from your online traffic or from the brick and mortar location you have?
The brick and mortar locations are definitely where we have more of our revenue share.
Really?
Definitely, yes, definitely within the brick and mortar. Although, we focus heavily on our online store, and it's something that we are growing exponentially. It's something that I would like to see take over those revenue shares and blow it out of the water. I think that there's a lot of value in purchasing something in store, and we want to take those aspects of your purchase in store and bring that to online. When you go in and you're able to touch and feel something and try it on, sneakers all fit differently. You can be a size 11 and in this brand and a 12 in this brand and 11 and a half in this brand, all the way things are cut are different. A lot of people want to try their sneakers on before they buy them. Or if they buy them, they don't fit, they want to be able to return or exchange them. Where a lot of these platforms that sell sneakers online in mass volumes, you're not able to return or exchange these products because they're sold on a consignment basis from individual sellers. They're authenticated, and then they're shipped to you. We pre-authenticate everything. We offer returns and exchanges, and we also provide a lot of sizing information and try to help people make their decisions. We have a whole lot of FAQs, and that is actually something we have AI help us with as well. To be able to provide people information and make their best decision as if they were in a store. And I think that's why we see the revenue in store be so much more of a greater revenue share.
Do you find, because I know you have a strip mall store and a store in a mall, do you find, I know that a lot of American malls are dying. Do you find one store that, strip malls are actually performing better than your actual mall store, or is your mall store, you feel, still just as high traffic as it was?
Very good question. I would say that a lot of I can agree that a lot of malls are dying. I would say there's malls that are dying and there's malls that will never die. And that's because of their location. It's because of their regional locations. It's because of the demographics surrounding them. It's because of the interests of those demographics surrounding them. A lot of people are looking to buy items that are sold in malls only in store. A lot of people fear buying things online for the issues of returns and exchanges because they want to touch and feel it, because they want to wear an outfit and see if it matches exactly what they're trying to put together. So I think that the mall is still very much alive in the right areas. I would say that our strip mall store is more a destination store. The amount of people that walk in our store at our Pennsylvania location, where we're located in a strip mall, people are coming in to buy sneakers. Our conversion rate is much higher within that location. It's almost all returning customers. It's people that we've built a relationship with. It's people that, word of mouth, people come to us because they're looking to buy something. Whereas in the mall, people might walk around and say, "Oh, this store looks cool. Let me go in." And they come in. And a lot of times, you'll see people that are not aware of the fact that we're not like the other sneaker stores in the mall. We don't have sneakers that are, all our sneakers are sold out. They're sold out everywhere else. We're the only place you can buy them within the mall. The rest of the sneakers in the mall are still in stock at retail prices, right? And sometimes we're under retail prices as well. But it's all limited. It's all things that sell out quickly. People waited in lines for hours for. People ran bots online to try to enter a raffle a million times to get. So people will come in and pick up a shoe. We have all our brand new sneakers wrapped in plastic. And ask, "Hey, why are these sneakers wrapped in plastic? Why are they $300? What's going on?" And so it's a different crowd, whereas people that come to our strip mall store in Pennsylvania know exactly what they're coming for. They know exactly what we have. They're following us on social media to see what we have going on. Oh, now we have this in. They're coming for it. And sometimes it's a race for who's going to get to it first if we only have a limited quantity of it.
So, James, the NBA kicks off tonight. And, tonight we have this night. I don't know if he's playing tonight or tomorrow night. We have this 19-year-old with the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama. I think I said that correctly. I assume he's got a shoe.
Not that I know of yet, but I know that Nike And Nike, Adidas, even Under Armour, they're prospecting these. I would say kids. He's 19, but I wouldn't even want to say he's a kid. Playing in the
No.
NBA is
So
such a
are you going to, so how do you judge, the market? I know you follow basketball. You're not a scout, you're not an NBA expert. You're following more social media trends. Do you try to get out in front of something like that? Or do you wait to see if there's real interest in this guy?
Another great question. I would say that I look at the player, I look at the following of the player, and I say, how many people are betting this? It's the same as a sports card, right? How many people are going to bet that this guy's rookie card is going to be worth money? How many people are going to bet that where do we see this person's future headed? So I think that's part of it. But I think the even more important part is, what does the silhouette look like? Who's backing this silhouette? If Nike or Jordan's backing this silhouette, I mean, it's more than likely going to be worth money. If they release it correctly, it's probably going to be worth money. If they release it in limited quantities, and there's more people that are interested in this player and interested in the future of this player that are interested in buying the sneakers, than what the quantity that they create to be able to be purchased is, there's going to be a demand. There's going to be a resale value. And so those are, I'd say, the aspects that I look at when I look at a new player, and there's people prospecting. Hey, what's this player going to do? What brand might sign this player and offer him a sneaker deal?
So one more follow-up question to that. Obviously, football players and baseball players wear cleats. Hockey players wear ice skates. So is that why? I know obviously Air Jordan really started this whole trend, as you said, back in the mid 80s, but is it really surrounded mostly by the NBA because they're the ones who obviously wear sneakers, when they're playing, or does a Bryce Harper or a Justin Jefferson, do they have a shoe?
Also a good question. The baseball players mostly do not. There's been a couple collaborations. There's been Derek Jeter sneakers. There's been a couple Derek Jeter sneakers. Obviously, huge following for Derek Jeter. So those sneakers have held their value, and that was many years ago that they released sneakers for him while he was playing. And there's samples that are made just for him. That this person, these collectors buy the samples that are $10,000, $15,000. Only made for him, and somehow they're able to get their hands on them. There's things like that. But I would say when you look at the NBA, you look at not even just what these players are wearing on the court, you look at what they're walking into the arena or the stadium or wherever, what they're walking in with. And that is a lot of the fashion that I sell of what these basketball, and they have a huge influence on the market. If LeBron James is wearing, this brand, maybe this brand was not even known about a year ago, and he's wearing it. Now the brand blows up. A lot of things work that way. So it's also important to see what they're wearing before they get on the court.
Right. James, so I'm curious now. I know you've launched a couple of your own products with your logo on it. What do you see as your long-term goal for Bullseye? Do you see it more with your own branding on it, or do you see just continuing selling sneakers? What's your long-term goal for it?
So my goal for Bullseye, as far as our line of clothing goes, is quality over quantity, create a demand through our quality, through our brand, but also to put it alongside the newest and the hottest brands. There's a lot of streetwear, and I think there's an area that is luxury and streetwear, and it's right in the middle. And I would say that's where Bullseye falls. And so a lot of these brands that are new and have a buzz, and they have a demand, but people can't buy them anywhere. They sold out on their website. Their production runs are slow because they can't handle the volume. This is where we come in, and we have this product available for these people. And so, staying up on the newest and the hottest brands, I think is really where we see, Bullseye providing providing items that you can't find anywhere else. I would say when it comes to clothing, especially, not just sneakers. And I think that's where that kind of crosses over. And then putting our products right alongside that and learning from how these brands did what they did so that we can, do something similar in the future.
I mean, you and I saw that when we did a.
Scott, you muted yourself.
Oops. We had a couple of products that we saw, a handful of products on our own in the city that we visited stores on our own, that had completely their own products, such as Kith or Mon Leandor. I can never pronounce the name. So do you see yourself as a product like that, where it's completely your one location where you find the product, or you see yourself in like department stores?
I would say I love the model that I'm not going to try to pronounce the name either, Scott, but ALD has, and that Kith has. I mean, they are the epitome of, they're not carried by many other brands, if any, and they're found only in their locations or only on their website. They have beautiful garments and small quantities, and they have cult followings. And the way that they curated their brand is something that I try to learn from and that I admire. So I would love to get to that point. And they also have sneakers alongside their clothing.
Yeah.
And so and a curated selection as well. They worked with these brands to be able to acquire. They don't have things that you're going to go find in Foot Locker. They have stuff you're going to go find in Italy, or things you're going to go see in different parts of the world, that really Nike's only allocating this stuff to these boutique style stores. So what they've done, even with their brand partnerships, is amazing. And I would love to get to that point.
And you see them, you see the, a lot of these companies do these drops on Mondays or these Friday drops where it's super limited quantity available. And usually it's not this crazy, it's not hundreds of, it's, I'd say $100 to $200 a drop, but I feel like it's the exclusivity and the quantity that they have that they're even releasing.
Definitely, they've created such a demand with smaller quantities than the demand. The demand exceeds the quantity that they produce, and they know that, and that's part of their marketing, and it keeps the demand flowing. It keeps the demand abundant, because maybe you're not able to get what you're looking for because it's sold out. You weren't fast enough. So maybe next week you're going to try to be faster, right?
Right.
So I think that there's a little bit of a competitive aspect to it as well. Like, oh, well, your friend got this and you didn't get it. So Nike's kind of created the same thing with their sneakers app. If you enter a raffle and if you win, a pop-up screen comes up with the sneaker and says "Got 'em." You'll see them all over the internet right after the release of people posting, "Oh, I didn't get them," or "Oh, I got them," and it's kind of a competitive nature to it as well. And so I think that's a cool thing that they do, and it's something that I'm also learning from it and trying to create for my own.
James, I had a professor tell me a long time ago that most people understand their business, but they don't understand the business of business. And to your credit, you seem to have a phenomenal grasp on how to run this business and how to be in this industry. And that's a credit to you. So what advice would you give someone who's hopefully listening tonight and saying, I want to turn my passion into something real, something that I can make a living from, something I could do my for many, many years of my life. Kind of what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Were you determined to learn the business first, or did you just know, I'm going to take this passion, I'm going to learn on the fly? You don't strike me as the type of guy who's going to learn on the fly, but what was that process for you, and what would you tell someone else who wants to be you, and wants to try to accomplish the same thing?
Another great question. I would say that you hit the nail on the head with saying I'm not one that likes to learn on the fly. I like to be prepared. I like to know I like to think about all the possible scenarios of how something could go wrong, how something could go right, and what all those avenues might lead to. And so I think that before I was willing to take the risk, I did the research, and I would say the best thing you can do, if you want to start a business, and you have a passion for something that you want to turn into your career, find somebody doing it well, find out what they do well, and try to figure out as much as you can about things that they do correctly, things they do incorrectly, and try to get experience, because things are going to go wrong, and that's how you learn. And that's how I've learned a lot of what I've learned. Although I don't like to learn on the fly, I've been forced to. There's situations where I've been forced to make decisions on the fly, and I've been forced to, hey, well, now this has come up. Now, what do I do? Maybe I can consult with somebody that has been through this before and try to build a network of people and get involved in networks of people that deal with similar issues. I would say that's a huge, huge aspect. But I would say it's also be as prepared as you can, so that when things do come your way that you weren't expecting, you're forced to learn on the fly, you have at least an educated guess as to what to do.
So a follow-up question to that, we've been talking about the fact you're selling shoes, you're selling trends, you're selling fashion, but there's so much more to this backbone of what you have to create. You have to create a point of sale system. You have to create an inventory system. You have to create a customer, follow-up system. How much money does those things cost? Do you buy those things? Do you rent those things? The American Express machine, all these things are a commitment that I've never owned a store, but I would think that you have to make. And how nerve-wracking was it for you when you realized, I'm not just, selling sneakers. I got this entire spine that I have to build in order to make this work.
The spine is the most important part. You can know everything about sneakers, but lack in the efficiency to sell them, because your spine isn't there. I have learned a lot by failing, and I've learned a lot by trying and not giving up and being persistent, being very persistent, even when I felt like maybe, hey, it might not. I might have to switch, or be okay with switching directions completely if it's for the best. But so we work with Shopify. Shopify, although the reason why we chose to work with Shopify is because we could have our inventory match online to our in-store. If something sells in store, it's going to match online. It's not going to be available online, and vice versa. And so that's really why we went with Shopify. And Shopify is releasing new versions and new integrations, and has a million apps on their app store of things you can integrate. And it's a business in itself same as the Apple App Store, to create apps for Shopify. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, e-commerce platform in the world. And there's still limitations. There's still many limitations. And you find that those limitations, require workarounds, and require, we've been working with our own private developers that are understanding of how Shopify works and how Shopify code functions. And Shopify then updates when you have to correct something, or we have to make a change, and we have to, be able to communicate with these developers. And so, the spine and the credit card processing, and the, employee management, the scheduling, is definitely not something that I feel like I could have learned without doing it and being put in the situation to make a decision.
I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. So I know we're getting close to the end. What do you feel has been the greatest asset for helping? Did you have a mentor in your life? Did you have a resource or book that you constantly went back to, and it was like, this is your Bible of of forming this business and continuing your business?
I definitely have some mentors. I have my stepfather, Robert. I have, who you guys know very well. I have my dad. I have my mom. Robert and my mom, both entrepreneurs themselves. I started working at a shipping store when I was 15 years old. I was working at a pizza shop and a shipping store. This was a way for me to generate some money to be able to buy some more sneakers at the time when it was a hobby. But my boss at the shipping store was a huge mentor to me on how to run a business. I learned how to run a business at a young age, and things to do, things not to do, customer service, and how to manage people at a young age, because he was able to help me. Currently, I try to surround myself with more and more people that give me good advice. Currently, I'm in Italy with a mentor as well. So I try to take in as much as I can and understand that that while I know sneakers, like you had mentioned, Michael, there's so much more to running a business, and I can always learn. I can always absorb information from individuals, from other circumstances, and I try to do that as much as I can.
James, we're just about out of time. I'll just tell you this real quick anecdote. When I realized, when I realized I owned a business, is when I had to buy a copy machine. Like, why? Like, do I lease it? Do I rent it? Do I worry about I never dawned upon me that I got to make a decision on buying a copy machine, which I never bought a copy machine before. I never needed one. So it was like little minutia like that. James, we have 30 seconds to go. Tell our listeners how we get directed to your website and how they could find you.
So the website is bullseyesb.com. So Bullseye Sneaker Boutique, but bullseyesb.com. We ship worldwide. Our Instagram, Bullseye SB as well. And then our 2 in-store locations, Bullseye PA and Bullseye DE on Instagram. It's the best way to find us. And we offer free shipping. We offer overnight shipping. And we have what you need, sneakers and streetwear needs.
James, I know it's late in Italy. I appreciate you staying up, and I appreciate you making the time for us this evening.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was really a pleasure, and I really enjoyed the conversation. Once again, thank you guys for having me.
We'll be back. We'll be back on November 7th with a new episode of the Lebenthal Report. Dom and I are taking next week off to celebrate Halloween with our grandchildren. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.